Oh, it's gone now, darling. Sorry. See if there's another one, shall we? There, this over here. Throw that now. I draw the line and stick my finger in our shorties there. It's not problem.
professional auto technician or working in your home garage.
Okay, so wait on.
So I'm not really talking tonight, but my microphone's all set up for music. But I found out the live weather is not consistent, and it's just very inconsistent. So I just put on like we normally did before. I just didn't work usually. So yeah, that's what we're doing. In time, it actually gets dark about 10 o'clock p.m. So yeah, I got mine presetted. I was on about 30 minutes prior, so I went 30 minutes before the normal flight time, so everybody should be on the schedule. It might just be me and you tonight, bro. I know the routine. Green flag, go.
There is a moment, feel it very clear.
Okay, I was wondering about that last night.
Wait on.
Kind of push me out a little bit. Is that what I should do, or you have to just
You
go
won't
up?
need it. It'll ride right off that road.
Well, here we go.
Because you can feel the wind in your face here.
So it's happening up there.
Right, so we're going to naturally pick up false lift, and we're going to experience what that feels like. And so we're not going to be super proactive to prevent it. But that you can feel it very clearly.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Because you can feel the wind in your face here. Right, so we're going to naturally pick up false lift, and we're going to experience what that feels like. And so we're not going to be super proactive to prevent it, because I want you to get that feeling, because there is a moment that you can feel it very clearly.
Okay, I was wondering about that last night.
Wait on.
Kind of push me out a little bit. Is that what I should do, or you have to just
You
go
won't
up?
need it. It'll ride right off that road.
Well, here we go.
Okay.
Whatever the direction is,
Because you can feel the wind in your face here.
so happening up there.
False lift, and we're going to experience what that feels like. And so we're not going to be super proactive to prevent it, because I want you to get that feeling, because there is a moment that you can
I was wondering about that last night.
take your weight off.
Push me out a little bit. Is that what I should do, or
You won't need it. It'll ride right off that road.
Well, here we go.
Okay.
Whatever the direction is going to be. Okay. So I will be able to feel the false lift. So that would get rid of the less blowing up there.
No, but we're about to feel it. It's right. You feel like it's here. Right about now. Nope. But notice how that. No, we're sinking. That's false lift.
Okay.
Yeah. With the calm winds like this, it is. To go ahead and get into this field and sort of see where the ridge comes down. We'll land in that field too.
Now, am I okay to be doing this over the road?
Yeah, because you're high enough, you're not descending, you're not traffic. Remember to practice that sense of kind of burning a lot, to clear it out and then vent. So heavy burn, heavy vent as we come into that burn.
Keep venting to get down faster, or is this okay?
This is okay. Yeah. Feel that?
Do you have a, like, is this isn't a good one to use for this kind of thing?
It is. Because that vent's pretty effective, and it's a little easier to pull, less rope to go, that kind of thing. Okay, now the overburn's not the big deal. We got a lot of mileage, but now notice how much ground you're losing as a result of that one overburn.
Burn again? Too much.
So what do you do then? Get on the ground.
A lot of.
All the way down. That's good though. So now that you got the balloon stopped, notice how now the scoop is going to be doing its job. You're stabilized, and the scoop is filling up the balloon. It's taking this dish out of the back of the balloon. We're perfectly fine. And so, let's talk about how do you think that landing could have gone better?
Well, besides the overburning,
Okay.
I probably thunked it in a little too hard.
Okay. And I think, yeah, a little bit, but not a lot. I mean, in my opinion, what you could have done is burned longer on the way down to soften that impact, and then do that aggressive vent like
So I
you did.
didn't burn enough.
Right.
That last one.
And your pilot's on this side, so okay, so go ahead and turn that down. So now that side has no fuel, right?
Right.
Okay, go ahead and burn that out. Now what I'd like to do is simulate an emergency procedure.
Okay.
And what I'd like to simulate is that this valve, this last valve, is leaking when closed. So it's leaking right now. Okay. So therefore, you turned the tank off and burned it up.
Right.
Makes
So
sense?
now I got no.
You have no fire on this side. Okay.
And the leak.
You're right. You've solved the leaking problem. Now, but what if that's the only place your fuel is? What I'd like us to practice is locking that on and now flying off the tank. So what I want you to do is generally open that tank valve and regulate the burner from there. What do you experience with that?
Delay.
Yeah.
Time is a lot different.
Okay. So the envelope itself is about the same. The problem is the burner doesn't respond.
Right.
It's easing on and easing on. But you see, the burner was just as effective now with it. And so this is a response to the valve is leaking closed, so you opened it, and now you can fly out the tank. So this is the valve. That's right. Because these blast valves typically, if they leak, which they don't very often, they'll either leak closed or open, and it's extremely rare that it's leaking closed.
Colorado Springs Tower, fire balloon, November 74008. Minutes, wait a couple seconds and try it again.
Remember, we never got a response last time.
Right.
I'm wondering if maybe the radio's not working. I don't know, but it just seems odd.
When we were flying, we made it past and we were next to the runway, we were hearing the traffic.
We were. Strange.
Colorado Springs Towers, fire balloon, November 74008.
How comfortable was that?
Bad, but not real comfortable.
It's not horrible, right?
It's not bad.
So the thing to be aware of in that kind of delay set, if you're coming down for a landing and you've got to be doing this situation, which is potential, right? Is that you got to think. close the valve is the fire stove. Does that make sense? Because you don't want to do that last burn with the tank valve and then hit the ground and have the fabric come in while the fire's stoked. So give it one more practice whenever you're ready and just really pay attention to that delay. Because you've got to be cognizant of the issue when you come in for landing using this technique.
2 or 3 seconds longer than the valve.
It's quite a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like I said, about 2 to 3 seconds ahead of touching the ground.
Let's try it again.
Yeah, why don't you? Great view of them now. We're up a little bit higher, so you can see how they go.
Hot air balloon, November 74008.
That if you want. And okay, so now, where are you planning to land today?
Well, going by what the piebald did, somewhere around Squirrel Creek. Yeah, direction is a little different. I mean, Squirrel Creek is about right in here somewhere, isn't it?
It is. And so this is Mark Sheffer coming down. Mark Sheffer turn on the other side of those houses and then Link goes through south. Yeah, Link goes. And remember that area there is the big PZ. And so now, as you climbed up here, now we've got that left turn. You knew what the ground winds are doing. These guys are behind you. You've climbed up, and now you've got a almost due east, right?
So, what's our accessibility this way, like east?
If you go due east, sort of out towards the power line, there isn't much accessibility actually. Sort of north of that neighborhood and south of that road, which I think is Bradley. That area is not very accessible in my opinion.
Well, so I want to be that way.
Okay.
And the ground winds were kind of going that way, so should I get a little lower and ride that way? I mean, am I good to do that until I get around the houses and then I need to be up a little higher?
I think so. Yeah, because you can take advantage of this open area and not have any congestion concerns. And of course, we know this isn't a PZ, so.
So I'm going to get a little lower.
Okay. Quite jacket weather. Oh look, Cherry's flying. Yeah. That sounds stronger. Yeah, and I'm just trying to think of the easiest way to visualize Squirrel Creek. So if you look straight south of us, there's this neighborhood that's close, right? And then there's the open field south of that. And then you see sort of that, that's the creek that goes through, that's the PZ. And then if you notice, it kind of climbs up the hill, and then there's a couple of houses. Distance. And it is, and it goes out that far.
This one's the whisper. And it's a similar thing to doing it like this, huh?
It is, and so we can practice that here in a minute. The difference is the type of flame. Because what's happening with the blast valve is it's going up to that center coil, or that center post, going through the coils and preheating, and then going through these orifices here to basically expand under very high pressure. Whereas this, the whisper, is just a liquid jet. And so if you watch the color of the flame, see how yellow it is?
Is it the same? I mean, is it different performance?
Yeah, so it'll produce less heat because that flame's not nearly as hot.
Right.
You have the same sense of delay like you do flying off the valve because you're cranking it open, cranking it closed. The difference though is once you feel this valve close, then fuel really does stop. Whereas once you close that valve, it's going to drain the hose out. So that gives you that extra delay.
I wonder if they were able to talk to the tower.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really strange. I texted Chris and just asked him if he heard us. Well, I'm glad we had the patience to wait it out that 20 minutes while it was looking breezy this morning.
Yeah, that was kind of something I was struggling with this morning. I didn't want to waste anybody's time.
Right.
But I didn't want to cancel and get out here and be flyable like right now.
Yeah, because the worst case scenario is cancel, then your friends all send you pictures of their beautiful flight. Right.
I mean, at these speeds, you think we'll make it all the way to Squirrel Creek?
Yeah, I think we can. I think the difference is, as you mentioned, working the south intentionally, because that east, at that trajectory, getting to Squirrel Creek could take us an hour, whereas at this speed, Squirrel Creek is probably half an hour away. or this direction rather. So I think you've got a, what, a 150 now? And so that'll take us probably skirting the edge of that.
A little bit of east.
Potentially, yeah. Here's that PZ I'm talking about. This one here is sort of the meaningful one, and he used to run cattle, but I'm just still very cautious because he is such a jerk. You know, that's the problem. And this here is squirrel. We don't have any specific altitude agreement over that PZ. All we have told them is that we will avoid landing. And so in that sense, if we need to be low-ish, and the key for us, especially as we get into the spring, is to look out for cows. Because that was his, at least in theory, chief complaint was that balloons coming over were scaring the cows. And so you can see the trees in here, and that's where the creek runs through. His property is the other side of the creek. I don't see any cows out there right now, but that was his chief complaint years ago. And then this here, this little house is a PZ where they've asked us to maintain what we agreed was a few hundred feet over the house, just because they do have horses and cows.
How do you know this?
The biggest way we build a PZ map is through experience, right? You land on a property or you irritate someone, and then they ask you to not do that again. Hopefully they ask you. Civil, and we put it on the map so that we don't make an error. We didn't know about it, and, so that's a bummer. But that's typically the way it goes. But in fairness, we also create green areas the same way.
Right.
You know, sometimes I've seen the crew can create green areas by, you know, let's say they're parked on the wrong side of the road and someone pulls up. Oh, this is so cool! I live right over there. You know, it's like, oh, really? Where do you live? You know, that happened at the place next to Venatucci Farms. There's the Venatucci Foundation. That's not quite the right name. They have huge property. It's just east of the farm. Huge, like 50 acres. And the guy watching balloons came over, stopped the crew during the Labor Day and said, "This is so awesome. I'll just open the gate. You guys can come in anytime you want." Got his name and number. We called him. He says, "Oh yeah, it's absolutely green. Be here all the time." So you get both colors that way. Hopefully more greens than reds.
Do you think this is a couple hundred feet off the ground?
Yeah, I'd say we're 200 feet-ish. The way I visualize it is if there was a balloon right below you, how tight would that feel?
So we need to be 1,000 feet above congested areas?
That is the rule, yes. The biggest debate is what counts as congestion?
Congested?
I would not consider this congestion. And frankly, I think even flying over like this neighborhood and thinking about, well, that field's open, this field's open, the intent of the rule is that you're flying high enough in an airplane that if you were to lose power, you can fly rather than being screwed and have to ditch it in a neighborhood. That intention doesn't really apply to balloons, but I still sort of use that logic of, am I just being irritated? Setting myself up for a safer and so, for example, you know, as you just bumped up there, you got a little bit of a left turn, so we're headed to these houses. But does that put anything at risk? Not particularly. You know, I probably just wouldn't say, I probably wouldn't trim the trees in the neighborhood because these are the guys we fly over all the time.
Right.
Very interesting turn.
And it changed directions big time, didn't it? Not a whole lot of altitude.
No, I'd say you did bump up just a little bit, but now you've settled back down. And the only concern I have is that, again, access into that area is a little bit tricky. But it feels like that wind in our face. Maybe if we were to stay this low, we would get a little bit more of that right turn. Because, of course, we've got these open fields, we've got the construction there. So even if the south wind does kind of go away, we haven't put ourselves way out there.
Come down a little bit.
It probably would. And so now you can see that bind, right? Because in order to have the best, and I would argue safest flight, you got to get closer to these houses. Right. And that's a bummer. The biggest thing around congestion is that, sort of like we talked about on roads, you want to maintain a flight profile that doesn't make people nervous. So you hear sort of in the news reports the hysterical neighbor, oh my gosh, I thought they were going to hit the house and they just couldn't, you know, they couldn't make the fire or whatever. And that's usually descending or real close to a house, where if we were at this altitude, we're at about 100 feet, and we just cruised over that neighborhood, no one would care. It says a little bit of a right turn, so we've still got kind of this wiggle room here. That one was a different deal though, because we were coming into that inversion. I think burning aggressively. And something to notice is with the fairly regular use of the turning band, I think we're actually generating a rotational momentum, and we're just going to keep spinning.
Stop. Okay.
It's up to you, but just be aware that I think that's what's happening. Okay, so now we're going to come into that shear again, easy, and just don't let it get ahead of you. This brown field here is what Jessica and I are working, the B field. The first time we moved here, I landed there a couple weekends in a row, and they had a couple of beehives out there, and so that they're gone now. That just became our naming, and it's actually a beekeeper once. He was out there messing with the hives, and we asked him if we did anything to bother him, and he said no, not at all.
What's the glare?
This neighborhood here. Yep. And this whole clump of houses on the north end is new. It used to be just down there. And you can see they're now grading out here. So this eastern side is still pretty good, I think, for landings. Very good.
I mean, that field looks pretty enticing, but I don't think we're on the right track to hit it, are we?
I would say it depends. Right now you're descending. Anticipate as you descend you'll get a little bit of a right turn. And as you do, you could potentially get... Will we get enough hook? I don't know. morning, guys. You don't have to bark at us. Even people's lawns are looking pretty sparse. I mean, it's March, it never looks great, but okay, so see how you bump down just a bit and you're getting a right turn? You want to shoot for a landing in that field?
Let's do it.
Okay, I like it.
You want to get a little position better.
Okay. So our obstacles, we've got power lines. I think it's too much. I'm seeing a gate there that tells me there's probably a fence. So it's not a problem for us, but just be aware that fence is there. I didn't see that gate. Murphy's got his timing, right? Very good. Okay. Fast, shallow.
A little fast.
Okay.
A little nerves.
Yeah,
That's normal, right?
it is. The easiest way to see how your heart rate slows down. And of course, when you got passengers, you can do that quietly
Right.
and say, okay, nope. Because nerves are calm. But you don't want to let the anxiety mount to the point that you can't execute the landing.
Right.
Breathing is so critical. Good morning. Okay. I'm seeing the fence now. And I do anticipate as we come down, a little bit of an increased right turn. So then in this situation, you think about which side of the fence is going to be most accessible, easiest. I think our side is more accessible, but that doesn't matter. I know exactly what I was doing. So good to just kind of let it cool. You can, yeah.
So you're thinking on the other side of that?
Yeah, I think this sort of dark brown dirt is clear. We could even go into the glen, and we've only been playing for 45 minutes, so we don't have to even think about necessarily retrieval. But I really like your That's really what the learning is. Gate is wide open, there's not even a gate on it. I think there might have been a barbed wire gate at some point, but it's wide open. Be careful with overturning and the risk of being disoriented. Better turning your body. Now try that big barn again. You see how that leveled us out? And we're not very high here, so. Nice, it'll have a little bounce to it.
Too bad?
No, I thought it was great.
Well, if we've only been flying for 30 minutes, maybe we should fly for another 30.
Okay, that suits me. Notice that these guys are kind of catching up with you. They're a little bit further east.
Well, I mean, like, is that bad thinking? Like, you think it's gonna, you know, potentially be worse 30 minutes from now?
I actually don't. We've got really low humidity. We've got nice stable conditions. You know, it might be a little breezier or something, but I don't think it's going to get bad. Okay, now is it? Did you switch tanks? Yeah.
Weird, you know, because I get used to this one corner, right, and then when I have to be in a different corner, you know,
feel like you're in a weird
different.
spot.
We could still hit Squirrel Creek area, huh?
We could, yeah.
I'm probably going in this direction, and then as I get a little further that way, kind of pop up and see if I can get that east.
Yeah, you can. The other alternative would be to do that sort of
right now.
The other direction, go get east to get lined up with these two, and then drop down. I think honestly today, I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Okay.
The only biggest caution of heading this direction is that we are headed towards the PZ. If we do see cows, then we might be sort of forced to climb. Having a choice, but and so when you're here,
This is your landing spot now.
you're just
Doing the bit like this.
yeah, which is awkward, but it's not the end of the world. Yeah, because then you're sort of pulling it down in front of you. Okay, I feel like we got a turn. We're kind of getting lined up with these guys. That's fun.
So it's all potential landing spots right here.
Yeah,
Accessibility probably an issue.
it could be. Yeah, I've landed in this. I mean, clearly there are tire tracks out there, so it must be accessible somehow. Anita was dropping out. I thought she might be heading to that construction area. Typically, people's first solo is relative. Yeah, I think so. I think they're relatively short, especially the mental load of your first solo is high. So you're. I feel like you got. I mean, that construction area might be. Right hook on the landing, but you never know.
Lots of open areas for that. Slow speeds.
Come on. More of these. That's so fun. At the same time, how unpredictable the weather is here.
Try not to get hung up on it too much.
Yeah, it's tough because you also don't want to go to the other extreme of just not planning your flight, because then you're not prepared for things. Yeah, you always sort of, the way I envision it is you sort of write out your flight plan, and then during no, let's cross that out, plan B, and you know, some days you're on plan C by the time you land, sometimes you're on plan Z, you know. Okay, so as we're heading this direction, which is super fun, then let's watch what Dave does as he drops down, because that'll give us a prediction. Right now it appears as though he's almost not moving. While we're here, why don't you give the whisper valve a try and just get a feel for it. See, it's quieter. But one of the biggest ways it's quieter is it doesn't have that pop at the beginning. It just eases in, which is good for the lifestyle.
It's quiet. I mean, it's working. It's going up right
Oh
now.
yeah. It's still fire.
Right.
Looks like he's got a little bit of it, yeah. These drainage ponds are sometimes attractive landing spots because they're in the middle of the houses.
Right.
And they're typically more wide open than the streets, and you can see in general they've got like a dirt access there. It's got access. So those are kind of things that they're a little bit awkward because you're right in the middle of a neighborhood, but it's things like if things just got real calm and it's like, well, I'll take this, and it's fine. Normally you'd worry, okay, is it wet? With the weather we're having, probably not. Not today.
Went through that first tank a lot quicker. You get through a lot in the summer, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you'll notice it. Me too. Yeah, it's a little bit hard on the people, but it's great for the balloon.
Right.
Obviously well within bounds. We could easily have another passenger.
You need to put it in that. If you have to.
Depending on the speed.
These slow speeds. I don't know what it is.
I mean, in the neighborhoods here, of course, these are nice wide streets in Colorado Springs. We've got underground utilities, and so from a space perspective, yeah, it really just depends on the speed and direction. If you lined up though, you have to do that.
Going back to the south, he's going off the north.
Yeah, and I can see a shadow here on the road. It's going there. And given that we don't know the accessibility in this area, that might be an attractive path to get us into, say, construction or even that little...
Few hundred feet above me, huh?
Yeah, not much. I very clearly remember Frank Hunter and I doing a biennial flight review. I can't remember whether I was reviewing him or he was reviewing me. But, you see where the open space is there? None of these houses were here. They were building the first house out there. And it turned out it was that TV show, Extreme Home Makeover. And he says, "Do you think we could land there?" I'm like, "What?" And it was sort of like today. We had a lot of maneuverability. We're like, "Oh, hey, let's give it a shot," you know. And I mean, he landed right next to that house, and the film crews came out and got it, talked to him, and it was fast. But none of this was here.
How long ago was that?
You've got that turn. Feels good.
Should I be more aggressive in getting up there? Or are we good here?
Well, I feel like you've already got the turn, don't you?
Yeah.
You've got that 030. It does feel like he's sort of running away from us a little bit, but I don't think we're in a hurry. You know, I'm looking at this flag right down here, and it's getting calmer and calmer. When Dave was sort of going through there, he was headed south, and I would still anticipate that that's the direction, but you never know.
Being that calm, we could be in a little bit of a tighter spot if we had to.
In that square there, yeah. Looks like it's got access. I see a road coming in there. So these are the times that I tend to spit over the side a lot because things are going to be so variable, you know, just to get a feel for what's going on. You know, it's even that, you know, if you're coming down into this area, for example, and you went north, that'd be great. If you went south, you got this. If you went east, you got that. From what I can tell, the Dave's truck is, they would just have to pop the curb axis. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to be quiet, okay? And so why don't you go ahead and just sort of figure out where you're flying, where you're landing, and tell me about it. And I would say brief me as a passenger.
Shoot for one of these across the road.
Okay.
First I was thinking this one, but now I'm kind of going this way a little bit. And then if it's going to kick me over once I get down on the ground, but either one of those looks fine. And so I just slowly just get closer to the height to there, so I'm not having to vent from so far up. Quiet.
This is just the epitome of a flight assembly mode. It looks like she's still in her pajamas on the swing, you know. That's funny.
going good. It's going really good, actually. I just finished my first deck for this place.
Nice.
And we're pretty excited about it.
You like the people you're working with?
I do. Can't wait till I'm getting 40 hours a week. I don't really notice the pay raise. Or to notice it when I'm only getting 24, 25 hours.
I would imagine that would improve as the weather improves, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Think about that kind of stuff as a summer activity.
See, I'm getting a wind shift. So it's a layer down here. So if I would want to be over there, I'd have to go up and get that direction again and punch down hard, more aggressively through that.
Yeah.
I mean, is that what I mean, if I keep going this way and we're going slow, I just don't know about accessibility. I'm going a different direction now. Okay, I'm going to climb up and see if I can get another direction following them.
Okay.
Feeling it. About where is that accessible?
Just north of the house? I don't think so. I think that one's actually pretty tough. You know, probably there might be some access around the water. I think that one's pretty tough.
Direction again.
Okay.
I would have to be close to should I start aggressively dropping? Because I'm afraid if I start getting down here, it's going to push me back here again.
Yeah, that could do it. Assuming that wind is still there and all that, yeah. So if you wanted to plan on variability, what you would do is you'd get pretty close to the road. If you keep going north here in that field, if you turn south here in this field, because this is clean, right? And so if you sort of ride this to the road and then drop in, you can go any direction. Now I do see a power pole right around the corner, and it looks to me like the sort of the street lights have wires to them, but I don't see any power lines on the road itself. So, but that's what I would do to give yourself the most flexibility, because you do anticipate it being variable, right?
So start descending.
I wouldn't now. No, I'd get to the road. Because if that ground wind is back, by the time you get to the ground, you'll be on those man. Down to a crawl.
Okay, am I wrong in thinking this? I got a little bit of this at 1 knot. If I can get a little closer and drop down and it pushes me back, I can land inside here.
On sort of that ridge line. Yep, that'd be a great spot. My spit just kind of went this direction.
It did. So I'd be safe to start letting it cool down.
I think so, yeah.
I wouldn't need to be super aggressive. I could let it cool down for most of the way, right?
I think so, yeah. And this is a couple of different roads, sort of what it looks like probably up on top and down on the bottom, but either one looks keep your eyes open 360 degrees. When it turns and you're up here. Much on that last one.
Pushing it to the south a little. See, I went down by the bridge, so I'm sure the bridge. I don't know if it's flowing that way, but it's still hitting it. Okay, a landing spot there. Not much accessibility that way, is there?
Not until you get to the construction area, the open area there, you just got the power line to contend with. I haven't landed on that one. I'm not really sure though.
You think I'm doing right by going this way, or should I pop up and try to get back that way?
And what if you pop up, what did you end up with?
I don't know. I know now. Higher. Construction right there, where all that bird's darker. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, on the other side, power lines are looking. Yeah, that, I mean, in general, construction is accessible. That's just why it's not my line. And so you're saying if you go up, you think you'll head out towards Dave. And if you go down, what direction would you go?
Much on the ground.
Okay.
Cottonmouth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I got in the habit of bringing water.
Pushing a little bit to the east, it looks like right on the ground.